arms near straight. You got a slight bend in the arms. And don't think so much about lifting the hand. Think about lifting the elbow. Okay? In fact, let's just slow down a little bit there. Keep that elbow up, the highest. There you go. So the elbow is almost like always higher than the hand, just a little bit. And that makes it, yeah, that's a little bit tougher, right? Mm-hmm. So we're not leading with the hand. We're not throwing the hand up. We're leading with the elbow. That looks great, the very slight bend. Now, he's standing. Josh is standing up perfectly straight right now. The thing I would like for you to see, if you're good enough at alignment and posture in your spine, if you're good enough at stabilizing your trunk, and it's a big if, you got to know who you are, then you can bend forward at the hips, and you can see right over here from the side that he's got his nice posture. And now we've actually changed very slightly the parts of the deltoid that are involved. Because right here, he's bent over more, and you're going to see more of this middle part. You can really see that. There you go. Again, leading with the elbows. So you can see the difference between this, and then I'll have him stand up again, and you can see how different that is. And now it's a little more of this stuff up here on front. So that's a nice distinction. We could even have him bend over a little more dramatically. Go ahead and you can almost go against the bench right there. So he's bent over quite a bit, and that's real different. That's way around here, different parts of his deltoid. Now the whole thing is working. It's just that we're slightly changing the contribution from specific parts of the deltoid in the middle of this whole thing constantly working. Nice and slow. Don't ever worry about coming up higher than shoulder height. Don't ever worry about that. And if you don't quite make it to shoulder height, don't worry about that either. You'll work on it as you get stronger. You'll be able to go a little bit higher. I love this exercise. It's another lateral raise, but this time we're seated, and we're going to actually use the cuffs and place them over the forearm. So it's kind of a seated forearm lateral raise. Josh has already got that one on. You take this, this hand cuff and spread it apart and put that foam part over the upper part of the forearm, not clear up here by the bicep and stuff, so it's right up by the elbow. But it's nice and comfortable, and he doesn't have to hang on to it. Totally changes the forces on the shoulders. So some people that have had trouble with their shoulders and can't do some of these raises where the things are in their hands will be able to do this. So this is a wonderful exercise. Now, the pulley setting on the bottom, we've actually got in the next to the narrowest setting. So it's third from the front, in other words. And you can play with that if you want to. You could even bring it a little further forward if you wanted to try. And if you found that by moving it backwards, you get slack in the cable, just raise the seat up a little bit, and then you'll have a little more tension at the starting position. Now, the rest of it's real simple, just like a regular lateral raise. Keep your arms bent, almost like you're on one of those machines at the gym with the big pads that you push on. And just come straight out to the side. And don't worry about going higher than the shoulders, just right up to about shoulder level if it's comfortable for you. Anything that's ever uncomfortable, just don't do it, right? You keep that arm bent the whole time. That'll keep the pads from sliding down towards your hands. Now something else you could do, we could actually have Josh sit up away from this thing a little bit, keeping his back straight, and now go out to the side. It'll change things just a little bit, not much. And if we wanted to, go ahead and stay right there. Bring your legs to the center, because I'm going to move these to the front. Stay. And this will change things even further, because he's going to be able to change the plane that he's moving through. So now he's taking his arms a little to the front and then bringing them back even with his body. So you can see from the side, again, very different part of the deltoid is being emphasized, although the whole thing is still working. Scapular protraction. Now, it's not an extremely popular exercise, but it's been used many times in the rehab of the shoulder, and there's an awful lot of people who are interested in the specific muscles that are associated with this, primarily the serratus anterior. Now, you don't need to worry about that, but if you are, take a look. We've got the pulleys in the narrow setting, and it's set in the same position that we would use on a normal chest press as far as the seat height. Amy reaches back and brings those weights to the shoulder level, and then she can go ahead and press right forward because we're going to leave the arm straight the whole time. Now, the whole movement here, and it's not a big movement, so you got to watch carefully, is all in the shoulder blades. Notice how she presses forward, not by leaning forward. She's not doing that. That doesn't help. It only takes away from it. So it's a short motion, and then when eccentrically or negatively she moves backwards, you'll feel the shoulders pinch together behind, and then forward again, back, yep. and then reach forward. So take a real close look there, and even slow down your VCR or your DVD if you have to see what's going on. But the arms don't move. They don't get wider. They don't bend and get straight. They're locked here at the elbow, and it's all in the shoulder blades. And there's a tremendous amount of muscle doing this. It's just not the visible muscle you're used to seeing and working all the time. Scapular depression involves muscles that are not only part of important postural aspects, but also complete the look of the entire back. And this movement is really the beginning of the pull-down movements we're going to look at later. Now notice Amy's got the seat set very low. That's so that she could reach up and extend her arms fully without hitting the pulleys up here. And she's leaning back against the chair. We're using the narrow settings, which brings these pulleys as close to the front as we can get them. She's going to keep her head back, leave her arms straight, and notice at the beginning the weight back here is basically pulling her shoulder blades up away from her waistline, and her goal is without bending the arms, there you go, to bring her shoulder blades toward her waistline. So that's what is meant by scapular or shoulder blade depression or downward movement. That's all it means. The key here is keeping these elbows straight the whole time. Now, if you find that from a side view, when you look in the mirror, you cannot get your arm up all the way Amy can, if your arm only goes up to right here, like kind of in front of your head, you may have to perform this exercise by turning around and facing the machine. That would allow you to sit away from it and have the cables at an angle. So take a look and see if you can do it the way Amy is, because she's got great range of motion in her shoulders, which allows her to lean back against the chair and use these pulleys the way they're set. This is a scapular retraction exercise. And again, because it's just shoulder blade motion, you're not going to see a lot of overall movement. But that's real important to make sure that you're not concerned about trying to move everything in your spine and make it look like some big deal when it's really about precision, okay? Now we're seated on the floor, knees bent, and that's going to be critical. A critical factor in keeping your spine straight or sitting erect is keeping those knees bent, for most people anyway. And then the pulley setting, it's going to be narrow or near the narrowest setting, like the second one from the tower here on the platform. Now, you can use either set of handles, and the whole thing is to keep your arms straight and slowly, like see right now, you can see Amy's shoulder blades are kind of spread apart forward, even though she's still sitting up straight. She's not showing what happens when you slouch. We don't want that, right? So even though she's sitting up straight, she's got a little bit of a forward protracted position here, and the goal is for her to slowly pinch backwards against the resistance pulling on the cable. And that is all there is to it. And you can see right here from behind. Try it again. There you go. And you don't want to come up towards your ears. Show them what happens if you were actually shrugging. Yeah, that's not what it's supposed to look like. We're not going up to the ears. We're just going backwards, keeping the arms straight. Now, she's got quite a bit of weight on there. She's got 50 pounds right now because the rods are not having to bend very much. So if you remember from the beginning, she's only getting about 2/3 of that weight. So you may be surprised at how much weight you can put on there given how little they're bending. This is shoulder external rotation. And though a lot of people consider it solely an external rotator cuff exercise, there really is a little bit more than that involved. There's some deltoid in here and some scapular stabilization. And I guess the big thing is that we're trying to keep the upper arm still. So she can have it in. Let's bring it in a little closer to your side here, Amy. There you go. So she can bring it in here. It doesn't have to touch your side. In fact, I don't think you want to smash it. But just try to control it. And she's trying to just pivot right here so the forearm moves in towards her stomach and then rotates away, creating this nice little arc around here. And keep the weight pretty light. We don't want to go to where necessarily like burning and fatiguing, and it's not one of those kinds of exercises. It's just a little bit of a strengthening exercise for the back part of the shoulder. This is shoulder internal rotation. And many times people think this is just a rotator cuff exercise, and that's not exactly true. Although the rotator cuff is involved, so are a lot of other muscles. But it's really important how you do this thing. And by internal rotation, that means we've got to have the resistance pulling from the outside of outward direction right here. And the big key is going to be what she does with the upper arm. She's not smashing it against her side, and she's not letting it move. So it's not going forwards and backwards. It's not going out. It's staying right here. She's holding it in space, and it's like a hinge. It's like almost like this was a gate, and she's closing it, and she's opening it, but this hinged part does not move. I could sit here and put my finger right in her elbow, and she would never move off of my finger. Nice and controlled. The weight needs to be pretty light. You'll find that out real quickly. So keep the weight down low. Don't get in a hurry. You should never probably feel a fatigue type, single muscle fatigue type of thing. Like if you were doing an arm curl and you knew this was getting tired, you will not feel that on this kind of exercise. This is the standing back extension. And most people think of it as being for the low back, and that's probably one of the areas that's being affected most. But I want you to watch what's actually moving versus what's being held still, because that's really the key to this exercise. So Josh, just step in here for a second before we even address the weight or anything. And this is something you're going to want to make sure that you can do. Make sure you can do this. Watch Josh, especially from the side over here, and you can see as he moves forward, he's bending in the hips as if this was a hinge, and this is staying perfectly flat and straight. So now move back and forth, Josh. And you can see this, the relative position from the hips up doesn't change. We're trying to keep that almost like a board as he moves down here in the hips. And we need to pay attention to that even when we get the weight, even to pick up the weight, so that we're really safe in the low back while we're performing the exercise and getting into position. So Josh, go ahead and work on that side. And basically what you do is separate the foam cuff from the handle and put it way up on your forearm and keep those arms bent quite a bit so it stays down here kind of in the bend of your elbow, and it'll be more comfortable. You don't want to slide up here near your wrist. And he's holding his hands to help stabilize there. And the next motion is, as we mentioned, all in the hips. Now, control forward a little bit. Just go a little bit and come back up. Check your range of motion and check your strength and check your ability by moving very short movements and confirm that you've got it taken care of. You've got everything controlled, you've got everything the way you want it, and then you can say, okay, now I'm ready for a little bit more range. Always think progression, meaning start with the simple and work towards the hard. And right, for this exercise, the simple means short ranges of motion, working up to larger ranges of motion. And one thing you can look at also, as Josh goes forward, I might even have him go ahead and look at the ground as he goes down, and keep your head more in line with your body there. Go ahead and let your head go forward. There you go. So it stays in line with everything else. Now that's the gist of the exercise. The whole key, the whole success of it is going to be how well you prepare yourself to perform this. So take the time to do it right. This is the wide lat pull down, and we're going to do it in a seated position. And we've got the seat adjusted already for Josh so that when he reaches up to grab the bar, he doesn't have any slack in the machine. In other words, when he goes up, it won't hit at the top. He can straighten his arm all the way out and still have resistance. Watch what I mean. Go ahead and have a seat, Josh, facing the machine. Notice we've unhooked the lat bar from these bar hook holders up here, and it's hanging on the snap hooks. And I've got the pulleys in the narrow setting. There's really no reason here to put them out wider at all. It's not going to change anything because you're primarily pulling on the bar. Now, we've got him set so that when he reaches up, he actually can't reach the bar, which is good because it'll provide tension when he does have it in his hand. Now, there is no reason for most people to grab all the way out here. And most people are going to end up grabbing right on this bend because to go all the way out here will actually limit your motion because it depends on your arm length and your shoulder width in terms of where you need to go. There is the possibility that some people with smaller stature could even grab inside of these hooks right here. So kind of pay attention to how wide your how wide your hands are when you're in this position. And we don't want to be way out here. And if you stand in the mirror and look at this and your hands end up more in this width inside of where these snap hooks attach, then don't feel funny about grabbing inside of there even though Josh is out here. This is perfect for him. Now, if you notice from the side, he's going to sit up pretty straight. He is going to be pulling to the front. Now, a common exercise in the gym is the behind the neck lat pull down. I'm going to tell you this. Pulling behind your neck is inadvisable for anybody on a bowflex, in the gym, irregardless, okay? Because of the structure of the shoulder, we're not necessarily designed to be way back there. So, He's in the perfect situation. The bowflex actually sets up the situation perfectly, but when he sits upright, the pulleys are a little bit in front of him. He's ready to go. Now here's the key to the pull down. I want you to watch. It starts in the shoulder blades here. And as his shoulder blades get near the bottom, he brings his arms down in one fluid motion. Now, let's see how we get Josh to do it wrong, because he's seen many of his clients when he does personal training probably. And what I was thinking was leave your shoulders kind of up by your ears and kind of do one of these numbers. Don't you see that all the time with your clients? Mm-hmm. When you first walk in the gym, when you first try this, it's just inevitable that you want to do it all with your arms. And your shoulders kind of stay up by your ears. So the whole thing is to get to where in one fluid motion, the shoulder blades go up when your arms go up, the shoulder blades go down and together when your arms go down. And the next thing to look at is that he's not worried about the bar touching his chest. Now, it may touch his chest, but that's more due to him bringing his arms to his side, and that's the range of motion you're concerned about, is this arm coming to the side. If the bar stops for you, go ahead and come down, and the bar stops maybe 2 inches from your chest, and that's as far as you can bring your arms into your side, then that's fine. It's a little different for everybody, but it has to do with more where your body's moving, not where the bar goes. So again, in review, think about shoulder blades and arms, and let's do it, instead of separating it, Josh, in terms of this first and then the arms, do all that. You see that? That perfect fluid motion, that's what you're working towards. You may have to start with 2 separate ideas. Okay, where's my shoulder blades, where's my arms? But in the end, it's one fluid motion, arms to the side, and then reaching back up, everything comes up at the top. And notice the one thing he's never doing is swaying back and forth. You'll see sometimes people, if it's too heavy, show them that. They'll do that, and they'll turn it into a big, almost catapulting type of action. Stay real stable the whole time, and you'll see results from this that you never thought possible. This is going to present 2 versions of the pull down, both of them with the narrow grip. And one thing we need to talk about is all pull downs are virtually working the same muscle groups. Let's take a look. Josh, go ahead and have a seat here. We've got the seat adjusted so that when he reaches up, he can't quite reach the bar. And take it from the hooks right here, and you'll notice he's going to have to grab. Yeah, there you go. We're going to use a narrow grip. And I want to show you something. We're going to involve, a lot of people think pull downs equals lats, and that's true. That probably is the most visible, most notable muscle that people are aware of when they're working pull downs or performing pull downs. But pretty much everything on the bottom half of the shoulder, meaning even posterior deltoids, lats, rhomboids, in here, teres, there's just all these muscle groups that people aren't typically aware of, and you don't need to necessarily know their names, but I want you to know there's a lot more going on here than what people give credit to. So, and there will even be elbow flexors involved here. But this is a narrow grip version of the pull down, and he's got kind of an overhanded grip, so his palms are facing the machine. And this will change things primarily in the terms of the path of motion that he's performing. On the more traditional wide grip, where you're out here bringing your arms towards your side this way, he's simply going to be bringing them towards his side from the front. That's about all that will change. So as he reaches up, notice that the weight is pulling him into this stretched out arm straight, shoulders up position. And then the first thing he's going to work on is bringing those shoulder blades down towards his waist, and then follow through with a smooth motion of bringing the arms to the side. And that is exactly where he needed to end, right there where his arms met his side. And he doesn't need to try to pull them further backwards at all, and he doesn't need to worry about where the bar is going. He's not trying to necessarily get the bar to his chest or anything. He's thinking about this to this, because that's what the muscles know about. They don't know about the bar. So watch the fluid motion here, and when his arms go up, his shoulder blades will again separate and move upward. And then once you get the idea of shoulder blades and arms working together, try to make it really one fluid motion. So you almost can't tell which one starts and which one ends. It all happens at the same time. And Josh is doing a great job of that right now, where this and this all at the same time, and they end up smashed and all the way down right here. They reach up at the top. And now, simply showing you a variation would be a reverse grip. Now, if you find, but by trying to grab this bar, it feels funny in your forearm, something doesn't feel right, on either of these exercises, well, folks, that's one reason we've got so many variations.